We ask Allah to forgive us, and we go to that person and we make it right. We are encouraged that before we go to Hajj, we actually go and make it right. We go make everything right in our life with everyone. Pay our debts. So we recognize the offense before those against whom the offense was committed, and before Allah, commit oneself not to repeat the offense. Doing whatever needs to be done to rectify the offense within reason, and asking pardon of the offending party. Asking God for forgiveness. Rendering forgiveness to others. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was an example of someone who would forgive others for their ignorance, even those who might have once considered themselves to be his enemies. Look at this beautiful, beautiful story. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the most forgiving person. He was ever ready to forgive his enemies. When he went to Taif to preach the message of Allah, its people mistreated him, abused him, hit him with stones, and his sandals were filled with blood. He left the city humiliated and wounded. When he took shelter under a tree, the angel of Allah visited him and told him that Allah sent him to destroy the people of Taif. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala went and said, Ya Rasulullah, I will destroy these people for what they did to you. And he raised his hands and he said, No, no, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Muhammad ﷺ prayed to Allah to save the people of Taif and their progeny. And if I remember correctly in my seerah, it was 8 months later, or 8 years, I'm terrible with dates, that this nation, that this people became Muslim. May Allah forgive me for forgetting the dates. But he knew that they did what they did out of ignorance, and we're going to come back to this story again, inshallah. In the seerah we see where Mistah started a vile, slanderous rumor about Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, one of the amazing pearls of Islam, the mother of the believers. Mistah's mother was a cousin of Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu Siddiq. And Mistah is spreading this rumor about his cousin and the wife of the Prophet and Abu Bakr's daughter. This is not just like any person. Yeah. Now, Mistah, you have to understand the history. Mistah was very poor. And after immigrating to Medina, Abu Bakr had financed Mistah, had set him up in a home, and got him married. And after all this, he starts a rumor about his daughter. This vicious, vile rumor attacking her character. And I'm sure, right? How should the story end? Prophet said, Allah's never going to speak to him again. I don't even want to be in the company of him. And Abu Bakr Siddiq heard this. He swore by Allah, I will never give another penny to Mistah as long as I live. How can he do this to me? Sounds very human, right? But then Allah revealed that verse that I told you before was coming. He revealed that verse in Surah An-Nur, Surah 24, verse 22. Let not those among you who are endued with grace and aptitude, these people that are doing better, these people that have money, of means, resolve by oath against helping their kinsmen, those in want, and those who have left their homes, and Allah's call, in Allah's calls, that's supposed to be. Let them forgive and overlook. Do you not wish that Allah should forgive you? You can see that I was dictating this. Allah is Allah. For Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. So here, this person, if anybody had the right, Abu Bakr had the right to be angry. But he listened to this verse and he said, I will continue to give him money. Now I want to say something here because a lot of people take this and they use it out of context. And I've seen situations where people were taking care of their parents and their parents expected the children to run up credit cards to take care of them. And this is haram. This is simply haram. Yes, we take care of you, but we take care of you in our means. We don't go against the principles of Allah and enter into tabdir so that you can live in luxury and I'm sinning. This is not what this means. What a noble verse. What a noble verse and example about forgiveness. If anyone had the right to be angry, it was Abu Bakr. If anyone had the right to cut off the ties of kinship, it was Abu Bakr. This was his daughter being slandered, the mother of the believers, the wife of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It wasn't just any derogatory, sarcastic comment. It was an evil, slanderous lie touching the very innocent character of our mother Aisha. So if anyone in the world has a right to be angry or to exact vengeance, it was Abu Bakr. It was not only a relative, but someone that Abu Bakr had financed. And what do we hear? Oh, after I gave them all that money, you know what they did to me? I'll never speak to them again. They leave all of these verses. I think I shared with you about 15 verses, right?
Box.
And about 12 ahadith. It is human nature that we will get into problems with people. It is human nature that we will get into problems with people. It is human nature that we will get into problems with people. This is the reality of living in a society. People will hurt you and you will hurt people. I don't believe there's anyone in here that hasn't hurt someone in their lifetime or been hurt by someone. Our Lord commanded us to forgive and our Prophet demonstrated forgiveness for us. Mason, remember to remind me when we're going to do Jeopardy.
Bismillah.
What time would you like to stop for that?
Probably 25 after.
Bismillah.
Right?
I need a few minutes. I couldn't remember.
All right.
We have Jeopardy.
So, our Lord commanded us to forgive and our Prophet demonstrated forgiveness for us. Allah actually links forgiveness with entering paradise. And I'm going to give you the verse for that. Allah also links forgiveness with the people that are already in paradise. In Surah Al-Imran, Surah 3 and verse 133, race, vie with one another for Allah's forgiveness and enter paradise, whose width is as wide as the heavens and the earth, prepared for the righteous. So there's an indicator here. There's an implication that righteous people forgive, and that we should vie to do this, and that forgiveness will get us into paradise. This is such an amazing verse. And it is my prayer today that if anyone is carrying a grudge, if anyone has vengeance in their heart, that you can let it go, that you can elevate yourself to this next level that we're going to talk about and let it go. In verse 144, those who spend freely, whether in prosperity or in adversity, who restrain anger. Let me say this to you folks, that as a therapist, anger is all about unmet need. When people are angry and they're in my office, I say, what's the unmet need? You're hurting right now. Oh no, I'm not hurting, I'm angry. Oh no, you're hurting. Let's get to the hurt. The anger is an outcry from the hurt. But Allah said, those who spend freely, whether in prosperity or in adversity, whether things are going wonderful in the family or things are not going too well, and they restrain their anger and pardon all, underline, bold, highlight, and pardon all people. For Allah loves those who do good. So Allah is saying here that those that do good are the people that pardon others, the ones that forgive people. Those who forgive are demonstrating taqwa. In Surah Al-Shura, Surah 42 and verse 37, and we're going to run through quite a few verses. I forgot to put the ending verse there. I was working on this morning at 2 o'clock. Allah describes the characteristics of the believers, the mu'mineen, those who avoid the greater crimes and shameful deeds, and when they are angered, even then forgive. Those who hearken to their Lord and establish regular prayers, who conduct their affairs by mutual consultation, ashura, who spend out of what we bestow on them for sustenance, and those who, when an oppressive wrong is inflicted on them, are not cowed but help and defend themselves in degree. But if a person forgives and makes reconciliation, his reward is due from Allah, for Allah loveth not those who do wrong. When you forgive, folks, your reward is with Allah. And what is so amazing about this verse is Allah doesn't say, like in many times Allah says for every letter that you read, every harf, every vowel that you read in the Quran, you get 10 hasanats. For praying in this passage, you get this many reward. For praying in the Masjid al-Haram, you get this many reward. But in this case, when you forgive, Allah doesn't put a number on it. He said, you leave it to me, and I'll be the rewarder of those who forgive. But indeed, if any do help and defend themselves after a wrong done to them, against such there is no call of blame. In other words, I can't blame you if that's what you are. So I gave you a black eye and you gave me one. So I can't criticize you because it is allowed. But it's not what Allah enjoined. It's not what Allah calls us to. It's not ihsan. It's not spiritual perfection. It's not spiritual elevation. The blame is only against those who oppress men. Isn't it oppressive if Susan, my beloved sister, says one thing bad about me and I spend the rest of my life saying 1,000 things bad about Susan? Isn't that oppressive?
No.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The blame is only against those who oppress men with wrongdoing and instantly transgress beyond bounds through the land, defying right and justice.
Sorry.
For such there will be a penalty grievous. But indeed, if any show patience and forgive, that would truly be an exercise of courageous will and resolution in the conduct of affairs. Don't we want to be courageous believers?
Yes.
Don't we want to be courageous family members and forgive? When they forgive, it means a wrong has been done to them and they had a legitimate cause of grievance. Revenge is a permissible mercy, but not encouraged. As Mommy said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But Allah said, but forgiveness is better. Forgiveness is in the ihsan category. Forgiveness is the elevated Muslim. Allah knows that we are at different levels of faith, and He accounts for that so beautifully and so mercifully. Not all of us have the reality to forgive, and some of us will want to exact vengeance. So Allah said, this is the law. You have the right to do unto others the same amount of wrong they do unto you. But what Allah wants is for us to forgive. Allah doesn't encourage broken relationships. He encourages covering faults, forgiving, and not transgressing the limits. This is the reality of the human environment and condition. When our colleague backbites us, our boss usurps their power, our friends are sarcastic, our children, spouses, our relatives are mean. Human nature is to retaliate with the same, but actually, unfortunately, oftentimes with more. Allah says, forgive, repair, and mend the bridge, and I will reward you. Allah knows those who are righteous. And I promise you that the lecture after this, if Allah gives me health and strength, will even be better than this one. Because we're going to get into some examples, and we're going to really look at it. And I need your help this week, Sister Fatima, on making sure my Arabic is right. In the meeting, I've got it right. So I love you all for the sake of Allah. Just hang tight. What I do need is I have 6 people, 7